This has become somewhat of a ritual around these parts. Whenever a new flagship device comes across our desk, we like to teach you how to use it, make sure you get the most out of it. It's time for 25 plus tips and tricks for the HTC One M8. So if you are ready, we are going to jump right into this, bust through these as quickly and painlessly as we possibly can. So the first thing I want to go through is the screen off gesture. So probably my favorite feature so far that I use more than anything with the new HTC One M8 are the gestures that they built in. So with screen off, you can do a number of things to jump right into previous screens, unlock the device, wake it, jump into the camera, things like that. So let's talk about them. There's 6 of them. So the first one is basically pick up the phone and hold it. So if it's laying down, you would pick it up, hold it, and just double tap and it wakes up the screen. So you could then swipe down, check notifications, and then you can actually double tap and it will make it go back to sleep. Second one is a swipe to the right, which gets you into blink feed. The third one is a swipe to the left, which unlocks right to your home screen. A swipe up just unlocks your device into the last place you were. So say you were in blink feed or you were in the browser or something, it will unlock you right to there. A swipe down actually gets you into voice calling, which works never. I'm not going to lie, I haven't used it because it never works. Every time I say a name, it never gets it correct, so I haven't used it whatsoever. And then the 6th one is turn the device landscape and tap the volume key and it launches right into the camera. Actually comes really handy and works really, really well for the most part. So those are your 6 gestures from the lock screen. Definitely take advantage of those. Sticking with the lock screen though, let's talk about lock screen widgets for a second to make sure you guys know how to use them on this device. So in security, you'll have to enable lock screen widgets. They typically won't come enabled out of the box. So lock screen widgets, once you're on this screen, you can see this. See if I can get you into that one more time. Right up top there, see that little arrow that was flashing? That shows you that's how you get to new pages of lock screen widgets. So swiping over will get you to a plus. Tapping on that will get you into whatever lock screen widget you're looking for. So now I have one for a shortcut to the calculator, and you can keep adding more and so on and so forth. That's essentially how you access lock screen widgets on the HTC One M8. All right, so let's go ahead and unlock and get into home screen stuff. So from the home screen, HTC finally, and I actually wrote a post on this, I was so shocked, finally allows you to quickly change the wallpaper on your device without going into their terrible personalized menu. So in the past, when you wanted to change wallpapers, you had to go into settings, find the personalized menu, which usually isn't that hard to find. There it is, personalized menu, and then adjust home screen, wallpaper, all that stuff. But now, like every other Android device on the planet, you can simply long press on the home screen and change the home screen wallpaper, and then it'll let you choose whichever wallpaper. I know this sounds like something so minor, but HTC forever may force you to go into the personalized menu to do that. So that's awesome. If you want to change widgets or set up widgets on home screens, you actually long press and you can do add apps or widgets, and it will pull up your widgets menu and show you all of your home screens. You can also pinch, and that will get you into this same menu as well. So if you want to add a widget, you would just grab it and drag it wherever you want it to go, and it will drop it there. And then if you hit home, you can actually get in there and move that around, resize it if it's a resizable widget, and all of that good stuff. You'll notice in here as well, there is a menu pull down for apps and shortcuts. So it's also a quick way to add apps or shortcuts. If you want to delete anything, let me just go back home here. If you want to delete something, just long press on it and then drag it up to remove, and that will go away. If you want to add or remove home screens, you can do it from this menu just by tapping this plus. That will add new ones. If you want to get rid of one, you just grab and remove. If say you want to set something else as your default, you can grab it and drag it up to set as home. You'll notice that little home icon drags over there. So that's a quick way to set up as your home screen. So now if I'm over here and I hit home, it will actually take me to that home screen. Let's go ahead and change that. You can also go into blink feed and set it as home, or you can even remove blink feed if you don't want blink feed, which is HTC sort of news and social media aggregator. You can see if you want to add it back, though, there's a dedicated card always on the left there to add blink feed. Let's jump in real quick to the app drawer. So in the app drawer, scrolls vertically, which is kind of odd since every other device scrolls horizontally. But just some things to note: when the first time you boot up your device, your app drawer will look like this, 3x4, so it doesn't show very many apps. If you want to show more, you just hit the little menu up there, grid size, and change that to 4x5, which I highly recommend you do. You can also sort your apps based on a custom or alphabetical or most recent. There's also a way in this menu to hide apps. You can also manage, so you can uninstall apps. So hiding and unhiding, this is a great way. As you can see here, I've got all sorts of boxes checked for all the bloatware that Verizon has pre-installed on here. So keep that in mind. If there's apps that you don't want to show in there, you can actually hide them right there. One other cool thing, though, if you want to access Google Now, since this device does have on-screen navigation buttons, you can actually grab home and swipe up, and that will get you right into Google Now, and then you can access all your favorite features of Google Now. So with on-screen buttons, that sort of makes Google Now much, much easier. If we swipe over here to Blink Feed, and again, I'm a fan of Blink Feed, while I know everyone, not necessarily everyone else is, but Blink Feed, basically, it's a pull to refresh. You can see it updating because I just pulled down. So again, you pull down. Try that one more time. They're updating. And it'll show you all of your feeds and stuff that you've added to it, or news that you've added to it. To access the menu and settings, you just swipe over from the left. You can see in here I've got entertainment and sports, and I've connected Facebook, Instagram, and Foursquare. If we go up here into menu, this is where you can actually select which services are going to show up in there. So you can check, uncheck stuff. You can also go in and add content, and in content, this is where you're going to find sports and ESPN and technology and different categories, and you can actually search and do some other things in there to get all the information you want to show up in your Blink feed, so you can really customize sort of the way things show up in there. All right, so enough of Blink feed. If we go ahead and pull down the notification area and we switch over to your quick toggles, these are actually customizable. You can see I only have a few in here. Out of the box, you actually get much more, and that screen's filled up. And in order to change those, there's actually a little edit button right here. So if we tap this edit button, you can go in here and you can see there's little scroll icons here that let you adjust where you want these to show up. So you can move those around. And then if we scroll all the way down here, you'll see there's sort of a break right here, which is your cutoff for what you want included in there and what you don't want included. So let's say I want GPS in there. Let's say I want sound profile in there. And I click done, and then you'll see if I swipe down, those are now added. So GPS sound profile. So you can add or remove those and sort of customize that if you will. Let's jump into settings and go through a couple of these areas. Oops. I rearranged my stuff, and now I don't know where anything is. All right, settings. One thing to point out is in storage. So the device comes standard with 32 gigs of internal storage, but on this slot right here above the volume key is an actual micro SD slot, so you can expand that. And it does actually hold 128 gig SD cards. You can see, obviously I have one in there, not all of it's usable, but it does hold 128 gig SD card, and that's awesome. So if you want to take all sorts of video, all sorts of photos, download full movies or whatever you want to your device, you should be able to hold plenty of that with 128 gig storage in there. For the developers in the building, you'll notice out of the box, like all Android devices, there is no developer settings. Okay, so how we enable that, it's not necessarily all that tricky, but a little trickier than normal. So if we go into about and then software information, normally you would see a build number in here, which you would be able to tap on, and you actually have to go one more menu deep into this more category, and there you will see build number. So if I begin tapping on that, you can see there it's telling me keep tapping, and then now you are a developer. So tap on build number up to 10 times, and if we go all the way back here, there it is. Developer options are now enabled, and let's not show that again. And then here is where you can enable debugging and do all of the fun developer stuff that you want to do. So that's how you enable developer options on the HTC One M8. Let's go into that personalized menu I was sort of poking fun at earlier. So if we go into personalized, this is HTC and always has been their sort of hub on how you customize your device. So you can see in here, you can tap on and adjust which home launcher you want. So if you had Nova Launcher in there, you could choose Nova Launcher over Blink Feed or something like that. You can also change home screen wallpaper here if you don't want to use the shortcut I just showed you, add apps or widgets. And these should just take you right into those menus you guys have already seen. And of course, we have to get back in there now. So you're also looking at lock screen wallpaper. If you want something different there instead of your home screen wallpaper, you can adjust that in here. HTC's also loaded up some themes. So if you want to adjust the theme of your device, sort of default color, you can see right now I've got orange highlights as an accent color, but if you change to something like this one and hit apply, it will change your wallpaper, which you'll need to adjust again. But it also changes your accent color. So you can see there, we've got green going on. All right, so in the personalized menu, one more thing in there. Oops, and I keep tapping the display brightness there. Personalize, some other things, ringtone notification and alarm. You can also change those quickly in here, although you can also adjust those in sound, although they're not quite as, they're not laid out quite as nicely. Let me get that brightness back up there. Apologies again there. All right, so let's talk camera then, and then we will wrap up since we are quickly approaching 25 or over 25 tips and tricks. So if we launch the camera, you've actually got all sorts of cool things going on here. While we can debate all day and night on whether or not we think the HTC One camera is awesome for ultra pixel, I will say that they've done a nice job with the camera UI. So the initial UI load up is just the camera, and so you tap the camera button and it takes a picture, and the shutter is incredibly fast. If you want to adjust or pick a different shooting mode, you actually hit this little icon right down here, and you can switch over to video. So if I'm recording a video, you'll see it's now recording, and if I want to tap stills or take stills while I'm recording, I can just tap the little camera button down here and it will take stills while I'm recording, which is always cool. And we'll let that go ahead and save. If we jump back in here and go to Zoe Camera. So Zoe Camera is introduced in the original HTC One, and Zoe is essentially, at least it used to be, it would take 3-second clips of photos. It essentially take 3 seconds of video, and it would let you pull out stills from those. So they've adjusted a little bit now, and instead of just tapping it once, taking a 3-second shot, you actually tap and hold, and it will record up to about 5 seconds. And then it will save all of those photos as a little video file. So I'll actually go into that real quick and show you. So this actually took looks like 2-second video, but it also, in this little button down here, took a whole bunch of stills. So you can pick out stills, save them, delete them, find which one you want, and move on from there. And then I will also point out that if you're doing Zoe mode and you hold down and record, and keep holding and keep holding and keep holding, it will lock. And I don't know if you can see that icon, but it says it actually locked, so it's still recording. So I'm still recording. So then you can record longer Zoes, and it'll take even more stills, which is kind of a cool feature. Also in here, there's selfie mode, which flips it to the front camera, so you can take selfies. Dual capture does a front camera and back camera at the same time, so it does sort of a selfie with a reverse image in there as well. And then Pan 360 is really cool. This is essentially Google's photosphere. So if we sort of jump up here and you highlight this box, and then it gets you going, and then you sort of find the red boxes in sort of a 360. I actually like this a little bit better, I think, than Google's version. But so you just kind of keep going around and around in circles, and we'll hit stop, and that will process. And then if we go ahead and try to view that, you can see it does and you can do these fully 360, so you can do full 360 rooms there, which is a very cool feature. So let's go back, and those are the 6 shooting modes. If we want to jump into some other stuff, and actually let me flip back to just regular camera. So in regular camera, you do have a menu down here, so you can get into auto shooting modes, or there's HDR modes in here as well, macro. There is anti-shake modes. You have all sorts of things, and including just a regular sort of panorama. So if you want to change your shooting modes, you do that in here. You can adjust your ISO. You can adjust all sorts of manual settings in here, including the light. So they made these really easy to get at. And then here are your different sort of filters while you're shooting. So you got vignette, and you've got sort of the goofy dots thing, which HTC has tried to make famous. There's also a setting in here. So let's say you adjust your ISO and you adjust all these different settings, and you want to save all of those settings as a camera. HTC is actually letting you do that. You can see save as camera here. So if you adjust a whole bunch of settings and you've got everything tweaked to your liking, you can actually do a save as camera, name that camera, and go back to it later on if you'd like, which I thought was a really cool idea. Otherwise, in here you'll see you can adjust the crop, you can add a grid to your viewfinder if you like, geotagging, all of that stuff is in here, including your storage if you want it to be internal or on the SD card. One other thing I thought we'd show you really quickly is editing photos. So actually, let's go back. And we'll probably do a more advanced look at this later, but here's a picture. Let's jump in there. We'll probably do a more advanced look at this later, so look out for that. But if you jump into a photo, and you'll essentially come to it like this, so you need to tap, and that will get you into this sort of menu over here, and you can tap Edit. And once you're in Edit, you'll get into, ideas or options like View Focus, which allows you to focus after the fact. This is not necessarily a good picture to show that. Foreground, which grabs whatever's in the foreground and then adds sort of a texture, something to the back. This isn't actually going to work that well because this photo has absolutely zero depth, but you get what I'm saying. Here is a seasons sort of filter where you can add floating seasonal objects. There's stickers in 3D dimension, and let's do that real quick. So here's the 3D dimension. That one actually worked kind of cool, unlike most of them I've tried. So kind of a cool idea there. But you can edit all of that stuff. There's also filters that can be applied. You can go in and add frames. And you can also do regular tools for crop, flip, straighten, and draw, and things like that, rotate. So you have a pretty advanced editor, I would suggest. And it's worth taking a look at, especially if you're really into taking photos. Adjusting those 4 megapixel photos may be necessary. So that's essentially your 25 plus tips and tricks. I'm not sure the official count there, but we definitely got up there. Hopefully that helps you sort of better use your HTC One M8. There's a lot of cool stuff going on with this device, so that should get you well on your way to enjoying it fully. If there's other things you want to see, be sure to hit us up. We are Droid Life, and we're out. Peace.